Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Miss Hawthorne. How are you?
I'm well. Hey, John Swint. Is he on yet? It was
I think he's
connected.
still connecting.
Okay. You doing okay this morning?
I am. It's a
Great.
cold day in the classic city.
Yes, it is. It's chilly here too.
And it's
We've
supposed to
had
be in the 50s, like
it.
later on this week. It's like, this is not fun.
No, well, we get that cold snap before Easter.
Ah, well,
Yeah. And Easter's right around the corner.
it is about 10 days away.
Uh-huh.
You doing okay, Miss Sandra?
I'm doing all right. Can't complain.
Good.
Mhm. Yeah. Yes, indeed. Mhm. Ooh.
Well, we have a nice group signed up for today.
Well, great. Great. John is still trying to connect.
I know. It's taking him a while. And thanks for coming early, Sandra. I appreciate
Oh, I thought I was running late and I looked at the time. I said, oh, I'm early
it.
because it's just been a lazy day.
Mm, I
I
actually
even,
did weeding meditation this morning, which means I got out and pulled weeds. Somehow that's gets me out of myself sometimes.
oh, wow, it's been raining here all day.
Oh, well,
So
not here
I
yet.
slept in this morning. Yeah. Good morning, Karen King. How are you? John still connecting?
Yeah, it looks like his camera is connected, but not a audio source yet.
Okay. Mm,
Technology is our friend when it works.
yes, yes, yes. Karen King, are you there? I'm ready for this baseball season to start. They've been doing their spring games.
Oh, nice. In the cold.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's something comforting about baseball season.
Hmm. See what those Braves gonna do without Freddie.
Mm, always hoping for the best.
Yes, yes, yes. I wonder why it's taking John so long to connect into audio.
He maybe needs to go out and try again. I don't think I can chat to him. Well, it says he's in the meeting. Let me just message him.
Okay. Good morning, Miss Gloria Jenkins.
Good morning. How is everybody this morning?
Doing well. What about yourself?
I'm a little sleepy right now.
Sleepy.
Time for my morning nap.
Okay.
Look, that I never take.
Mm-mm.
But with this nice rainy weather, this is good napping time.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Mhm.
Hi, Debbie.
Hey, Debbie.
Hey, why have I got a black box in the
I
middle?
was just gonna say, Karen, we got a big black box in the middle of the screen.
Well, it's gone and I'm here.
Mm.
Well, I don't know.
I think John Swin is on now.
I just got on with John Swint.
Hey, John, how are you?
Hey, good morning, Sandy. I need my picture to come up now.
Hmm.
Is that Dr. Swinch? You're muted, John.
Yeah, I'm here. Hey,
Hey,
um,
John.
hey,
Look at baby. You looking good, baby.
well, you are too, dear heart.
Look, I'm gonna get mine in. Let me turn the camera on. I'm gonna get mine in before those other ladies.
Okay. Hey, there you are. Woo!
Good,
Good for you.
good to
What's
see
going-
you.
Good to see you always. You know that.
Hey, everybody else.
What's up your way?
Hi, Linda.
Hey,
Always good to see you, dear heart.
you too, dear. I gotta come down. Well, we gotta bring our voting rights program that way. So I'm gonna call you and tell you about it. Okay.
Oh, please, 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 please.
All right. I got a few minutes, so I'm gonna run. I'll be right back.
All right.
John, did you bring lunch for everybody?
I think Miss Gloria asked John if you brought lunch for everyone and you're muted. So you'll need to unmute there.
I got it. No, I'm just eating a snack.
All right.
Mm.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Karen Solheim. I'm one of your GAE Board of Directors members representing retired. And joining me this morning is Sandra Hawthorne, who also is on the GAE Board of Directors representing retired. And I realize that we have a grouping today because of spring break of both active and retired members as we go through and talk about TRS Basics. We're also in a lovely position to have with us today Debbie Simons, who is not only a GAE retired member, GAE past president, but she also is the chairperson. She gets called chairman, I think, but of the TRS Board of Directors. So it is great to have Debbie with us also. What is going to happen, if it's okay, is I have just a short PowerPoint presentation that delineates some of the basics of TRS. And then we can open up the room for questions and Debbie can answer anything, well, or find out, no pressure, Debbie, can find out the information to almost everything that we need to know. If you are thinking that this was a workshop to know more about retiring, I will steer you to a piece of information. I'll put the link later on in the chat. GAE-Retired also conducts pre-retirement seminars. And our last one is Saturday, May 7th. They really are around 4 hours long. They are free, they are virtual, and they're open to members and non-members within 5 years of retirement. So if you haven't gone over the threshold yet into the lovely world of retirement, please join us. These are a little bit more focused on retirement issues, and we do have a representative who joins us for these pre-retirement seminars who's actually a member of TRS. So again, I'll put this information in the chat and you're more than welcome to attend that and bring your friends with you. The reason that I wanted to go through and do TRS Basics is because my thought always is that if we don't understand how our TRS system works and where the money's coming from, if we can't explain it to people, then those who want to dismantle our lovely retirement system are perhaps more able to do that. And those of us who are retired think that that would be horrible because we do have one of the best retirement systems in the US. And if you haven't been to the TRS website and you haven't created your TRS account yet, regardless of what stage of your career you're in, please go through and do that. It has a wealth of information and you can see even if you are retired or not, especially if you're retired, what your earnings statements have been. So create a TRS account, please. And just the good news from the last TRS meeting, one of the things that our retired organization does is to monitor the TRS meetings that are held every month, every couple months, so that we know what's going on. And as of the February financials, we had over 98 billion in assets. And we had, you can see the number there, 282,000 plus actively contributing members. And then we have about half of that in retirees. And that's a nice ratio to have. You surely in a retirement system wouldn't want the reverse. because you really do want active contributing members helping to put funds into the account along with the school systems in Georgia. So we're looking in good stead financially. And just some information, the number of service retirees you can see there, and the average monthly benefit, and then the average service credit. A lot of people think that, oh, you know, teachers have 30, 40 years when they retire, and that's not the case, because for some people it's a second career. Some people have taken off during their career for parenting responsibilities. So not everyone hits the magic 30 years. Average age at retirement, 59. And then the number of the age at which that everyone gets a retirement check, the average age is 71. Now, there are some people, and all of us who are retired on this meeting aspire to be among the centenarians. There are people who are part of TRS that are in their hundreds and receiving TRS checks. So I retired at 57, and I'm hoping to hit the magic 100 and have received the retirement check for that number of years. Total monthly payroll, you can see that. And then the majority of people who are receiving retirement benefits are doing so through electronic funds transfer. Some people, maybe the centenarians, are getting paper checks, but most of us are receiving our TRS benefit just automatically showing up every month. It's wonderful. Also, just in the overview, there are several options for those of you who will be retiring. You have 7 different plans to choose from, but most people take the maximum plan and get the maximum amount in their check each month. But again, as you get closer to retirement, you set up your TRS account, you attend the pre-retirement seminars, there will be help dealing with your individual situations. Today, we're going to talk about 3 things: the difference between a defined benefit, a DB, and a defined contribution plan. We're going to just look briefly at the TRS formula, and then look at the funding for TRS. How does all that money happen? So let's talk about the difference between a defined benefit plan and a defined contribution plan. And why should we have a defined benefit plan? Well, there's 3 reasons, the 3 R's. Recruit, it's a selling point for getting people into the profession. It's a selling point to keep the best and the brightest in the profession. And it's a way that those of us who have served the profession can retire with dignity and honor. So let's go through and talk a moment about what the difference is between the 2 plans. Defined benefit. You're going to know what your income stream is and that it is guaranteed for life. So yes, even if I live to be 105, I'll get that wonderful retirement check happening every time. Defined contribution plan, if your investments don't measure up, you may not have a guaranteed income for life. With a defined benefit plan, the employer, and in this case, that's TRS, is responsible for investing the contributions. If you're under a defined contribution plan, you have to go through and invest the contributions. And I don't know about you, but I did not get a degree in business or marketing. And if I were 22 coming into the profession, I wouldn't want to be responsible for managing my own investments. So it takes a little bit off of the responsibility off you as the worker. Defined benefits. You will know what your income stream is. And again, that's one of those things you can find on the TRS website when you log into your account. Again, because a defined contribution plan is up to the whim of the market, you really don't know what your retirement income is. It could waffle. Defined benefit, we have survivor benefits, we have inflation protection built in. One of the benefits of TRS is we do get a 1.5% COLA twice a year in January and in July, and it's wonderful. And that doesn't happen with a defined contribution plan. So let's take a look briefly at the TRS formula. Many of us who are retired probably have this memorized, but if you're doing normal retirement, you can retire at 30 years of creditable service regardless of your age. So if you start at age 22 in the profession, you put in your straight 30 years, you can do the math and you would be retiring out at 52. The other way to get normal retirement is you have at least 10 years of credible service. We call that vesting, and you're at least 60 years of age. And when those happen, what you do is you take your years of creditable service, including partial years, and then we have in Georgia what we call the multiplier, which hasn't always been 2%. It was lower, but it's currently 2%. And then you take your highest average 24 consecutive months salary, and you go through and come up with what would be your maximum benefit. So if I go through and just plug in some hypothetical numbers, you're at 30 years, we'll pretend, the 2% multiplier, and let's pretend you retired out at 50,000, then your average, sorry, not your average, your retirement benefit would be $30,000 or $2,500 per month. And if, another hypothetical, you worked 40 years, and some people don't want to work beyond 40 years because you don't get any extra credit for working beyond the 40 years. You don't can't get paid for 45 years. Times the multiplier, pretend you're making 60,000 as your highest average salary for your 24 consecutive months. So that would give you the 48,000 per year or 4,000 per month. And again, as it stands now, we all know that you can use your unused sick leave towards retirement credit, and 20 days unused sick leave, 1 month of service. And I always tell people, in my case, I have 29 years of active service and I had over a year's sick leave built up. So I've had my 30 plus years of service credit. And in the legislative session a couple years ago, there was a bill that was brought forth to do away with unused sick leave credit. And of course, it was going to be for the new hires, people employed after a given date. But that particular piece of legislation did fail. And as I mentioned before, we do have the cost of living adjustments awarded every January and July. And there was another piece of legislation, again, in the past legislative session, that instead of 1.5% awarded twice a year, it was going to be 3% or less awarded annually. And mathematically, it wasn't a whole lot, but it really did impact over the course of retirement. The difference between having the 1.5% COLA awarded 2 times a year as opposed to just a once 3% COLA awarded annually. And that piece of legislation failed. And pension reformers tend to look at all aspects of a retirement system if they're looking how to change it and tweak it. And so these are just some things that as we go through and are vigilant about TRS, that we take a look at to make sure there isn't any kind of egregious legislation that's coming forward. And just legislation in the General Assembly is on a 2-year cycle, the biennium. And so if a piece of retirement legislation comes forward and it has a cost implication that would increase the amount of money that the state of Georgia would have to put into the retirement plan, it has to be on a 2-year cycle, the piece of legislation. So that means you have to go through, the legislators introduce it 1 year, do an actuarial study, and then vote on it the next year. So this was the 2nd year of the biennial session. And we did pass a piece of legislation was passed, House Bill 173, that allowed up to 5% of TRS's investments to be in alternative investments. So that's a piece of legislation that did move forward. And I think Debbie will share either now or later on that TRS is nowhere looking at this point to cap the 5%. I don't think we're even close to that at this point in time. And then,
Karen,
yes, ma'am.
you had a question from someone about how much sick leave is earned per month. How many days?
Let me do that question at the end if that's okay, because then I can go and look and not stop sharing screen. So,
okay, that was from Sharon Boulder.
Thank you. I'll get back to you. One piece of legislation that did pass this session is what we're calling the Back to Work Bill, House Bill 385. And what this does is allow retirees who have at least 30 years of creditable service to wait 1 year after they retire, and they can return to work, and instead of what's currently getting 49% of their salary, they can get 100% of their salary. Now, the caveat is if a retiree returns back to work, again, you have to have the 30 years of creditable service, but it also needs to be in a critical needs area as defined by the local RESA in the system. And so if you're an English teacher, and there are a wealth of English teachers, but RESA says that algebra is a critical needs area, you could go back to work after waiting out a year, but you don't earn any more TRS credit, but you also are not paying in your TRS percentage. So GAE was hopeful initially when this bill came forth this session. The 30 years of creditable service wasn't on there. And we really didn't want it to stay there because if you remember from earlier, not everybody has 30 years of credible service in the profession. The average was the 25 plus. So we'll see what happens. But the bill is for the governor to sign, and we anticipate it will be signed. So we looked at defined contribution, defined benefit, TRS formula, and let's just take a minute and look at the pots of money where TRS gets its funding. And there happen to be a couple of buckets. And the first bucket is what you put in if you are currently working. if you are an active employee. And then in the second bucket, it's what TRS is responsible for. And they're responsible for the employer contributions and the investments. So as far as the employee contribution, the rate has been 6% for a while. So if you're an active member, you're putting in 6% of your salary as your employee contribution. And then as far as employer contributions, if you're an active employer, you can see that they've been increasing. They've capped on 2020 and now they're at 19.81%. So your employer, if you're an active member, is also contributing to TRS. But then you'll lastly notice that, and the money's kind of proportionate here, the biggest jar of money comes from the investments. And we can see here over the last 12 months that things have gone up and down, and we've had some COVID experiences and some international experiences, but we haven't on the rolling position here taken any kind of sharp dive over the last 12 months. And this is just a nice little graphic that illustrates the three pots of money. And let's pretend that we have this retired teacher, age 59, and retired a number of years ago in 2010. And this retired teacher, as of about 8 years later, had taken home almost $400,000. Well, of that amount, the smallest percentage, about 12% of that money, came from what the employee put in. So those 6% contributions are usually gone out of that particular bucket of money when you retire in 2 or 3 years. Where the majority of the funding comes from is from the employer contributions, again, a little bit more, but the overriding amount of money that you're getting is from the investment income. And I just want to show a short video that gives an overview. And if you cannot hear the sound, let me know and I'll reconfigure here. This is about 2 minutes.
Educators do more than just teach. They fulfill a promise to serve and strengthen our communities, all throughout their careers. At the Teachers Retirement System of Georgia, we think educators deserve a promise too. That's why we're dedicated to helping them retire with confidence and financial security, so they can impact their community even beyond their careers. In 1943, the State General Assembly established TRS to provide retirement security to those who dedicate their lives to educating Georgia's children and adults. Today, TRS is the largest public retirement system in Georgia. In fact, with $80 billion in assets, we're ranked in the top third of all pension funds. We manage hundreds of thousands of active retirement accounts. And while TRS pays more than $5 billion a year in benefits to retired members and their beneficiaries, approximately $8 billion is pumped back into the local communities in the state of Georgia. You see, TRS doesn't only help teachers, we also help to boost our local economy. Every dollar paid in state and local pension benefits goes on to generate an even greater total output. Say a retiree receives a pension payment, then uses it toward the purchase of a home. From contractors and builders to mortgage brokers and real estate agents, everyone involved is put to work, earning and spending money in our local economy. That in turn means even more business, more hiring, more jobs, all right here in Georgia. And remember, the majority of funds in our members' accounts comes from investment income. But unlike 401k and 403b plans, pensions aren't tied to the stock market. Whether stocks go up or down, TRS benefits stay the same from month to month. For stability retirees can count on. Our teachers' careers start with a promise. With the Teachers Retirement System of Georgia, their retirement does too. Because the way we see it, A pension is a promise our members can rely on and retire on. Visit trsga.com and learn more today.
And so hopefully we've gone through and looked at all three of those questions that we were going to look at. And the video that I just shared is one of many that's on the TRS website. So again, I encourage you to go through and to visit the website and take a look at all the videos that are there. So Debbie, I'm going to ask if you want to comment or elaborate.
Certainly, thanks. And as always, Karen, you do a great job in your presentations, and I think everybody appreciated it. There was a question in the chat. Do you want to address those? I believe there has been an explanation on what sick leave is. Is there anybody else that wants to ask further questions on sick leave?
Debbie, there was another question from Deidre Carter.
Yeah, I see
About-
that one.
Okay,
Do you want me to address that?
yes.
Okay, let's see. The question is, at the end, would you please answer the question, can a retiree with 30 years of service return to work if he has been retired for more than 1 year? The answer is yes, you may. There is a 1 year limit under the new law that, as Karen indicated, we do anticipate the governor signing on this full-time return to work for certain categories of teachers. And you must be retired for 1 full year. Now, the reason that we've done that is we want to be able to manage that number fiscally and financially, for the fund itself. We do not want people to retire in December and then come back January 1 and do this part-time retired or full-time retired. So we need a year in order to make sure that we've got a balance working on that. So Deidre, does that help with your question? Does that answer your question?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, thank you.
Okay. And let me just expound on this new law a little bit. What we had found prior to the pandemic was that we were upwards of almost 13,000 teachers a year that were working part-time. Now, that's great. The problem was nobody was paying in any money into TRS for those 13,000 people. You work part-time, there is no employer contribution, there is no employee contribution. Our efforts in this and working with the governor was twofold. One, very concerned in general about the teacher supply pipeline and the fact that we do not have enough graduates coming out of our Georgia colleges or anybody's in order to meet the needs of our students. So the thought was that if we can let the person retire, stay out a year, then we've got all those wonderful, highly qualified, highly specialized teachers that can return for 1 or 2 or 3, how many years that they want to, and provide excellent education for all of our kids all over the state of Georgia. Plus, then the employer will pay the employee and the employer contribution back into the TRS so that we can have a much more balanced budgetary and actuarially sound system. So that was a win-win-win all across the board for the children and for your pension plan. So like I said, and Karen said, we're pretty sure the governor's going to sign this. Too bad that they put that 30-year cap on it. Perhaps that's something that we can come back and in future legislative sessions either reduce or or just do away with. I don't know. Jan Jones was one of the big ones that put that in, and it was a surprise. I mean, it literally came up in one of the last hearings of the bill. Dr. Evans, our executive director of TRS, was unaware that it was being added. We thought we might be able to, and that came added in the House. We thought we might be able to deal with it in the Senate, but that did not happen. So this is what we've got. It's still an improvement. It's a step in the right direction. And sometimes we all know we just have to do things incrementally. sometimes.
Well, thank you for the other added information. I appreciate it.
Sure, Deirdre. Glad you asked.
Can I ask one question about sick leave before you
Yes,
move on?
ma'am.
Yeah, you said that 9 months of sick leave is equal to 1 year. How many days, how many sick leave days are equivalent to 9 months?
Well, it depends on your local school system, doesn't it, Karen?
Well, I think
There's some, go ahead.
I think with TRS, and I'm going to pull up, I think, the chart in just a minute, which is on the TRS website. Everything's on the TRS website.
Okay.
I think it's 1 month of sick leave is 20 sick days.
Okay. All right, I can go from there and I'll go to the website.
Okay, and I'll try and put the link in the chat in a minute.
And,
Thank
and
you.
Sharon, I think you can also contact your own Board of Education. They
Right.
have to keep accurate records of your sick leave. And I know that I worked in Gwinnett County, and for many years when I got my paper paycheck stub, it was on there listed how many days of sick leave I had accrued. Well,
Mhm.
that's gone, has been gone for quite some time. And there was nothing on my electronic statement that said it. So, but they do have to keep that, the personnel departments.
Yeah, we have Atlas now, and it's, you know, it's on the site, and I have only have 136 days of sick leave.
Is that 136 days or 136 hours?
Days. Mhm.
Okay. Well, that's a half a year,
Okay.
you know, almost a half a year. So that's great. One thing I wanted to add that a lot of people do not know is just about everybody, about 95% of people have some form of sick leave days that they use either months or a couple of years towards their retirement. The money that goes into the system does not come from you as an employee, does not come from the employer. It actually comes out of your TRS fund itself. We bankroll that.
Okay.
So it's expensive, but it is a benefit that has been deemed appropriate at this point in time for us to pay. So that is another benefit that I don't think people understand.
Mhm.
That's where the money comes in order to fund that part of it. Wanted to add a little bit about the cost of living, the COLA that we get. I want to make sure that you all understand that that is a compounding COLA. It doesn't mean that in July you get a 1.5% increase. Then in January, you get a 1.5% increase. That January one, you get a 1.5% as compounded by your July. Now, I retired in 2008 with 32 years, you know, of experience and a master's degree. 14 years later, I am bringing home $1,450 net more a month because of the COLA. It's huge.
If you ever want to see retirees stirred up, it is when there's any kind of movement at the General Assembly that the COLA will be touched in a negative fashion. And Debbie, will you just comment on the golden COLA that's part of Georgia?
Oh, yeah, you mean as compared to the rest of the United States?
Yes.
one of the things that I have tried to do in my 10 years of being on the board was to make sure that I was an educated trustee. And you can learn a lot, you know, from working within Georgia, but I availed myself on a national level and have attended at least 2 training sessions a year with trustees from all over the United States in pension funds. And during that time, you of course get into conversations. And I cannot tell you how many times I have had to go back with my computer and bring up our law and show them that I'm not lying, that we have a 1.5% compounding COLA here in the state of Georgia. I talked to trustees from other states whose retirees have not received a COLA in years. Or it's a COLA that's only tied to the fund if certain other triggers are done. Ladies and gentlemen, I cannot find another pension system in the United States, teachers' pension system, that does what we do. And it is expensive. And it is expensive. And it is one of the things that drives up or goes into determination, let me put it that way, what the employer contribution is. Your contribution and mine, because of state law, cannot go higher than 6% of our salaries. It can go lower, but it can't go higher. That's not true with the employer contribution. And Karen showed you that chart where you can see within the last 12 years, it was as low as 14%. It went up to a little over 20%, and now it's 19%. And we're pretty well leveling off around the 19 to 20% in our projections too. So the employer contribution is significant, and it is one, and this is another thing. You hear about these other states, their pension funds get in trouble, and they are. And one of the big reasons is because the state did not contribute their actuarially determined contribution amount. Every one of the states that you hear about that they're in trouble, it's because the state legislature didn't pony up what they were told they needed to. That's a big part, if not the only one, but it's certainly a major one on why pension funds get into trouble and why they are not actuarially sound. So we have a lot to thank our Georgia legislators over the years. Since 1945, every time that the TRS has done an actuarial study and said, okay, to keep our fund sound, this is what you're going to have to contribute. And they have put in every dime of our request every year since 1945. So there, when you do meet or talk with your legislators, I hope you thank them. I truly do, and tell them how much you're a retired teacher or you're going to be a retired teacher. And it's because of their commitment to our fund and to you that's going to enable you and me to return and keep on retiring in dignity. And that is so important. So I do think sometimes we forget that part, but think about it. And truly, and if they're just friends of yours, just thank them, and say, one more time this year, you fully funded your part. And we've also been very fortunate to have governors. I can only think of one in all my years of Georgia, and I've been here since 1981, and that was Sonny Perdue, who seriously tried not to fund that. And our legislators realized that that was not going to work, that they needed to fund it. So it's just very important. I would be remiss without doing just about a 2-second history lesson. This law was enacted back in 1945. And there were a lot of changes, positive ones, that happened after that to make it that the fund and the pension that we now have. Two of the major persons that did that was Dr. Senator Horace Tate and Bill Cummings. Both are longtime GAE advocates. Both of them have passed on, but both were, Dr. Tate was the Senate retirement chairperson at the same time that Bill Cummings was the House retirement chairperson. And they did many, many positive things in order to give us a sound foundation. So those are two gentlemen that we owe a great deal to. So just to make sure that you guys know, we thank our forefathers literally in this arena. Talked about the COLA, wanted to add that.
Debbie,
Yes, yes.
Judy Polachek has a question about let's see, explain how GPO affects the COLA.
So I'm going to put that off until our lunch bunch. We always meet the first Wednesday of the month. And we're going to be talking about something you may or may not have heard of in June called the government pension offset and the windfall elimination provision. So Judy, if you'll just let me defer that for about 60 days, I rather have that part of that discussion so we can educate people who don't know about how your Social Security benefits might not be available, and do that in June.
I'd appreciate
Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
And then Pamela Griffin has a question about, she retires in May of 2022, and she wants to know if she'll get the COLA in July.
The answer to that is no. The first COLA that you will be eligible for will be January of 2023. That's the only time that you will skip it, unless something happens with the CPI, and that ain't going down anytime soon. So I do not anticipate any, freezing or any not granting of the COLA, but that is written into the retirement law. You must be, retired. You must be retired, and you will not get the first one. Like if you retired in December, you wouldn't get the January 2023. You wouldn't get it until July of 2022. And I believe,
will you just comment on my comment concerning alternative investments?
okay.
Thanks.
Okay. Yeah, I will definitely do that. Many years, the GAE and myself included, fought against getting any of our funds involved in alternative investments. There were many good reasons for it. However, times change, and there are a lot of restrictions on our alternative investments. There are also a lot of training. They can be very expensive, and alternative investments are ones that you really have to be careful with. And everything that we have established with TRS Georgia around the alternatives is very, very structured. As Karen said, the initial law and the one that we're governed under says that we can invest no more than 5% of our overall fund into alternative investments. Your investment committee went one step further. We said of that 5%, we can invest no more than 1% a year, so that we take our steps in this very, very carefully. As a member of the investment committee on behalf of TRS, which is elected by the board every May, and there are 6 of us that serve from the board, the 10-member board of directors. There are 6 of us that are elected to do additional meetings and training, trust me, for the investment committee. We get quarterly updates on not only what we have invested, but what we can invest in. It is up to that investment committee to vote. A majority must agree to invest in any particular alternative investment corporation. We've been very careful, meticulously so. The thing about alternatives is that they take longer to realize because they're not like stocks and bonds, which report out daily. You know, these take anywhere from 3 to 5 years, sometimes longer, to realize your investment because you've invested in something that then has to work its way through its process, such as a company that you're wanting to beef up any number of things. Maybe it's P&I, development, whatever. And then the company realizes larger profits. That takes longer to realize. And that's why you don't want a huge portion of your investment funds tied up in that, because it is exactly that. It is tied up for a 3 to 5 year window period of time that you're not realizing investments. So it's not wise to put a large amount of money into those kinds of investments. Everything else we've got is pretty liquid. Little example, several weeks ago, even before the statement came out that people should divest in any Russian investments, we only had about 300 million invested in something directly related to Russia. Our investment committee and our Department of Investment Services staff started selling off those investments. And by the time the word came out, we were already out. We were already out and able, luckily, to realize, some profits in that. So we didn't take any losses. But I mean, that's the kind of leadership that we have in our Department of Investment Services. This is what they do all day, every day, all day long, and on the weekends. Is that
Linda has a question.
okay, Linda?
And unmute Linda if you are.
Yeah, I'm coming. I was trying to multitask. Karen, for the benefit of those who have no idea what GPO web and all of that is, could you just put something in the chat so they can do a little homework before we give them the full view?
I'll be happy to do that. Thank you, Linda.
Mm-hmm.
And Debbie, you want to talk about just, you have to know the secret handshake to get on the investment floor and all of that.
What do you mean secret handshake? I'm not quite sure what you're asking me.
Well,
Oh, you're talking about the actual meetings. The currently, it's not that much of a secret. The whole 5th floor of the TRS building down on Northside Drive is dedicated to the Department of Investment Services. And there's a reason for that. There's a greater deal of security. You've got to have a badge to enter. And I think you guys can figure out why. I mean, we do not need to have anybody roaming those halls that can get access to anything, paper or, computer wise, that's invested in that. To that end, and it was interesting to me when I got on the investment committee. I'm used to school board meetings and open records laws and open meetings, and all this, that, and the other. That doesn't happen. That does not happen within our investment division. It is very confidential. Can you imagine what would happen if word got out of what this $100 billion fund was investing in? what they would actually do to the market and how many individuals would take advantage of it. As a member of the investment committee, well, as a member of TRS, when I was being vetted 10 years ago, they did a GBI background check, but they also did a forensic background check on my financials. I had to agree to that. And since then, I have signed numerous documents that indicate that I will at no point in time share the documents and the portfolio related to anything that TRS, Department of Investment Services, is making decisions on, as well as I cannot profit. And occasionally I have to sign another waiver so that they can do another forensic monetary background check to make sure I personally am not walking out of that room and changing any investments that I have personally and mirroring what DIS is doing. Too bad on that one. I'd love to do it, but nope, cannot profit in any way. So we've had from time to time members that wanted to come in and sit in on the investment committee meetings, and it doesn't happen. You know, we try to explain to them that this is not the way that procedures are handled. And we've had the Attorney General opinions and many others that have supported, the way that this is done. So that's another reason why it's important to be sure that the kind of trustees that you all, support and talk with are the ones that can be trusted and that have only the interest of the fund at heart and not
Debbie,
personal profit.
we talked just a moment and we'll wind things up about not who by name, but how are the trustees, how do you get there to be a trustee of the TRS board?
Yeah. Well, there's a couple of positions. Well, all of these are under state law. Okay. The secretary, the state treasurer is an automatic member, whoever that person is, as one of the 10 trustees. The state auditor is an automatic member, again, who that may be. There is a person, one trustee that is selected by the Board of Regents, because the higher ed is also a member of the teacher retirement system. So it was felt that they should have a dedicated trustee from the Board of Regents. The governor appoints an administrator, an active administrator who is a member of TRS. And there is one, well, that's a principal or a vice principal. The governor also appoints a superintendent who is an active member. And then the governor appoints 2 active teachers and members of, if you're a teacher, you're a member of TRS. So there's 2 active teachers. The board itself, and the governor has one more appointment, and a citizen at large. Just citizen at large, whoever the governor wants to appoint. Interestingly enough, this governor appointed Dr. Bill Sloan, who is the executive director of GREA, as citizen at large. So, doesn't mean they can't have other qualifications, but the only one they have to have is just a citizen of Georgia at large. The 2 other positions, one is the teacher's a retired person from TRS, and a person at large that has financial background. Those 2 positions are actually elected every 3 years by the Board of Trustees, the other 8 people that I mentioned. The person that elects, or that is holding the person that represents the retired teachers is myself at this time. And then Tom Norwood, who owned his own financial business and is retired from that, is the person with financial background experience. So for the most part, you gotta know the governor because he has the most appointments. And we've been fortunate in that fact that when those positions come open, this governor has been pretty much Johnny on the spot. Each of those positions is a 3-year position. There is no term limit. There is no term limit. In my case, my term limit will be self-imposed, and when my brain is no longer capable of learning and keeping up with what is going on. And I trust my good friends at GA will help me make that determination. If at such point in time or when that time comes, they're going, you need to give it a rest, Deb. So but you can be appointed, over and over again. In fact, Tom Norwood, who is the person with the at-large that has a financial background, if I'm correct, I think he's been on the board 14 years. So, every 3 years. Yeah.
Thank you, Debbie, for that information. Thank you for giving your time today. And I think we all can see that TRS is in good hands with you as chair of the TRS board. Debbie has been selfish. She isn't selfish with her time at all and with her knowledge. And so she is open to questions and very much answers in a way at least I can understand what she is saying. So I appreciate that. So Debbie, thank you for being with us today. I want to share 2 other things before we adjourn. For those of you who are retired members and want to hear from the TRS executive director, who Debbie named as Dr. Buster Evans, we will be having our all-member conference virtually at the end of the month. And this information was in the GAE-Retired in the loop communication that went out this morning at 7 a.m. So if you are not aware of the all-member conference and you want to attend, no cost, just email me. I'll be happy to share the link. And then the other piece that I want to share, I talked about our program for June, but next month for our retired lunch bunch, again, this is open to all GAE members. We're going to have amongst our GAE Retired Legislative Committee, Linda Wolf Smith, Gloria Jenkins, hopefully Judy Polachek and Vivian Brook, talk about the work they have been doing and the work that they are planning to do concerning seniors and voter literacy. House Bill 202, Senate Bill 202 was passed last year, and it has impacted the way that we will be doing business for the May 24th primary. So please join us on May 4th. We do try to adhere to the hour. And so even if you are an active member and you have your lunch hour, cough, 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 join us for any portion of that you can. And of course, these meetings are recorded. So if you ever would like to look at the video for this, contact me. I'll be happy to send that out. Sandra, thank you for running tech with me today. I appreciate you. And I want to thank everybody for being here today. I hope it was worth your time and energy. And thank you for all that you have done and are doing for public education. And thank you for being a GAE member. Have a good day, hopefully a non-rainy, wet day. And I hope to see you soon for other GAE and GAE retired activities. Thank you so much. Have a good day.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.